In United, the progress was zero, in my opinion.
Manchester United might have just approved a $2 billion circus tent that might never even see the light of day. And yes, I wish I was joking. I went down the rabbit hole on this one, and the deeper I got, the more insane it sounded. So let me break this down. Manchester United has been dissed as the club that hasn't had much progress in years and is already over £1 billion in debt. The majority owners, the Glazers, have been squeezing the club dry for nearly 2 decades. And now suddenly they want to build a 100,000-seat stadium? For context, that's going to be bigger than Wembley and even flashier than SoFi. And somehow they want to do all of that debt-free. Yeah, I had questions too. And wait till you hear who they expect to foot the bill for everything outside of the stadium. Spoiler, it's not them. So stick around, because what's coming next might just blow your mind.
Things that I'm used to see when I was 20, 21, 23, so surprised me a lot. In United, the progress was zero, in my opinion, to compare with Real Madrid and even Juventus.
Many called Ronaldo finished, a snitch, any name you can think of for this statement. But let me take you back to the late kickoff of 12 May of 2024, Manchester United versus Arsenal.
There against Havertz, but still he goes, pulls it across, and Trossard finishes it off. Manchester United caught sleeping.
On a normal day, the 1-0 loss to the London club without a European Cup should have been the headline. Yet, by the final whistle, every phone in that stadium was turned upwards. A spring storm had dumped 41 millimeters of rain in just about 2 hours, and Old Trafford just could not cope. Water burst through the roof joints, overflowed block drains, and poured down the seats in shimmering sheets. Seems like the best goal scorer the world has ever seen wasn't so wrong after all. But the question I had was, how does one of the richest English football clubs reach a point where its home ground looks like an indoor waterfall? And why have the owners left the roof leaking for more than a decade without a permanent fix? Hold those questions, because the answers explain everything that follows. See, Old Trafford is now 113 years old. It's over a century old, and independent engineers say that it would cost over £500 million just to stop the leaks, replace the corroded steel, and upgrade century-old plumbing. Instead of spending that, the Glazer family, who are already carrying over £1 billion in debt, has decided to chase a brand new 100,000-seat stadium just next door, with a price tag of over £2 billion. In reality, I think this could become one of the costliest own goals in football history. And the next few minutes will show you why every crack in that old roof matters. When I first saw the renderings, I'll admit, I sat there thinking, okay, this might actually be a good idea. Sir Jim Ratcliffe talking about the stadium, calling it the greatest stadium in football history. It'd have a roof bigger than a city block, 3 massive devil tridents piercing the skyline, and a plaza so big they're calling it double Trafalgar Square. Add in NFL games, concerts, skydecks, megastores, and £7.3 billion promised to the economy. So on paper, this felt like the next coming of Disneyland, just that this one was dressed up in red and gold. And yeah, for about 10 minutes, I bought into the dream. I pictured it full of fans, full of life, and full of noise. But the second I looked past the PR gloss, the cracks started to show. Because here's the truth. The flashier this thing looks, the more fragile it becomes. And the higher it goes, the further it can fall. And there's one tiny line in the financials, just one that could collapse this entire fantasy like a house of cards. But before I show you that, you need to understand the financial Jenga tower that this thing is already balancing on. So let me jog your memory. Just a few months ago, Sir Jim was warning that Manchester United was this close to a financial cliff.
Many would argue that, again, the money you're going to save is dwarfed by interest repayments on player salaries and signings, on decisions around managers and executives.
I mean, the simple answer is the club runs out of money at Christmas if we don't do that. if we don't do those things.
Now, coming back to the present, and his master plan is a $2 billion spaceship tent with tourist plazas and sky lounges. I mean, what happened to tightening the belt that he's been emphasizing? Let's break it down like I did step by step. First, they have over £400 million in bank debt just sitting there, and it's fast compounding. Then £300 million still owed on transfers. So yes, those flashy signings that they've just made in recent times, yeah, many of them aren't actually paid off. Now at £200 million in credit lines just to keep the lights on. And that's before they even find a single brick for the stadium. Their total liabilities already sit at around £1 billion. But that's the problem. It gets even worse. Inflation is still high. Interest rates are at about 4.25%. And even if they go up by 0.5%, that's going to be brutal if you're financing at scale. Now factor in construction inflation, which is hovering around 17%, and suddenly your £2 billion dream turns into a £2 billion nightmare. Every 100 million over budget means less for transfers, less for wages, more excuses in the January window. So do you remember that circus tent dick that fans made? Maybe it's not a meme anymore, and maybe it's actually starting to feel more like an omen. Because if ticket sales drop, if Champions League money doesn't come in, and of course, they would still need to win for that, well, let's not even hope that investors start sweating, because then all of this will collapse. But that's not even what blew my mind. The real threat to the stadium is not even money. It's something way more obvious and way more permanent. Let me show you. You would think that after 2 years of planning, world-class architects on the job, United would have cleared the land before designing the world's biggest football stadium, right? Well, no. Right next to Old Trafford, there's not one, not two, but 3 massive freight depots, and they're not moving without a fight. We're talking 20 freight trains a day, legal land rights older than some clubs, and relocation costs that could hit £600 million just for the land. Let that sink in. It's not even the stadium that might kill the project, it's the ground it's supposed to be on. If just one depot delays the build by a year, Ratcliffe's tight 5-year budget is gone. And that £600 million bomb doesn't disappear, as it either lands in your taxes, gets baked into ticket prices, or blows the debt through the roof. And that's just the opening act. A new rail station, tram expansion, road work, none of that is even included in the original £2 billion budget. So here's the question that I'm asking. If a single train terminal can wreck the blueprint, what happens when politicians start bickering, legal fights begin, and fans demand answers? Now, the truth is that most fans want something better. In fact, I actually found a survey that says that over 90% of fans are positive about the new regeneration. But a handful still worry that a shiny new stadium could feel more like a theme park for tourists and not a temple for fans. Barry Devine, a resident who lives very close to the stadium, said there's been talk about it for years because the existing stadium is obviously very tired and the work needs to be done. Even United's own protest group, the 1958, are fuming and calling the design a soulless circus tent for tourists. Their fear is that prices will be off the roof and it will only turn into corporate suites where the working fans are priced out of the club that they built. The Must fan group sent Ratcliffe a brutal open letter. A price increase or significant ticketing policy changes would land very badly with fans at this time. So yeah, the vibe is swinging like crazy. And it's going from wild excitement at finally overtaking Spurs and Arsenal in stadium quality to pure rage at the thought of paying £80 to sit behind a pillar under a glowing ad for crypto. And trust me, that tension is just getting started. Because when I flipped the lens and listened to what the experts were saying, even they were split. On one side, you've got football finance analysts like Kieran Maguire saying, yeah, this could work. Of course, United already leads the league in matchday revenue. Add 25,000 extra seats, slap a sponsor on the roof, run stadium tours 7 days a week, and suddenly you're printing money. But then he hits us with an asterisk. If they pile fresh debt on a club that's already £1 billion in the red, they'll swap shiny seats for an empty trophy cabinet. And the translation of that is that you can't buy ambition on a credit card forever. Some architects were way less polite. The Guardian's Oliver Wainwright straight up calls the canopy Zippo's big top and says that it'll collapse under the weight of its own hype if the money dries up. And Barney Ronay, he's having none of it. His point is that they can't keep crying poverty and then pitch a space-age palace. They've got to pick a narrative. Even Omar Berrada, United's chief executive, admitted that they'd have to choose between that and investing in the team or risk finishing 15th again next season. But it's not all fire and cynicism. Gary Neville, who helped plan the whole thing, says it's a win-win if ticket prices stay reasonable and the roar of the Stratford ends gets preserved in steel and sound. Even Mayor Andy Burnham is on it. He even calls it the North's biggest regeneration since 2012. Remember what I said earlier about who's really paying for the stadium? Well, it's time to pull on that thread. Because while United keep chanting privately financed like it's gospel, here's the truth they buried in the fine print. They're covering the stadium bowl, sure, but everything else? The roads, the railways, drainage, and even relocating that freight depot? That's on the taxpayer. We pay, they profit. The luxury suites, their money. Naming rights, their money. But the literal path fans walk to their seats, that cost gets billed to your council. But that isn't even the craziest part. This entire £2 billion dream depends on public funds that aren't even guaranteed. It's all tied to the UK's levelling up scheme, and that pot could disappear after the next election. And the funny thing about that is that the decision makers aren't even Ratcliffe. In fact, it's not even the Glazers. And it's not even you, me, or any lifelong Red. It's civil servants that flip tabs between NHS, education, and way down on that list, Old Trafford. But could everything work out well in 2035? Maybe we see Manchester United raising the Champions League trophy in jubilation in their new glowing white dome. Of course. But even if that happens, the question still stings. Who paid the price and was it worth it? Alright guys, that's gonna be the end of this video today. If you like this and you want to see more construction deep dives, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on what's next. Thank you ever so much for watching till the end, and I'll catch you in the next one.